When I wake up in the morning, my phone's already overflowing with texts, notifications, and messages from people demanding answers and attention. I feel completely drained, yet I still respond, because I don't want to come off as rude or disappoint anyone. I keep myself reachable, always available, always responding, and before I know it, I start to fade into the background. The more I show up for everyone else, the less they seem to value my presence. The more I give my time and energy, the more they take me for granted. That's the trap. And it's not really your fault. It's just how human nature works. We tend to respect what's hard to access, what's not always there, but in doing so, we forget how much we undervalue the very people who make ourselves available all the time. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul, and that includes using others as distractions." When you're constantly reachable, people end up calling you only when they don't want to face their own problems. You become the escape, not the person or the soul they truly need, just the option they turn to when they're storming through life's chaos. After their storm passes, they leave you in silence, exhausted, confused, and forgotten. It's a heartbreaking cycle that many people live in, being needed during moments of crisis, and then completely ignored during moments of peace. And honestly, that hurts. But what if you decided to stop making yourself so easy to reach? What if you stopped explaining yourself all the time or responding immediately? What if your time, your space, your energy weren't always up for grabs? Think about how everything would change, how the chaos would diminish, and the respect you deserve would start to return. You wouldn't be the emergency line for those who wouldn't lift a finger for you. Instead, your kindness wouldn't be exchanged for convenience. When you create space, you create clarity. People begin to see who you truly are beyond what you do for them. There's power in being unavailable, not as a game or act of revenge, but as a form of self-preservation. When you stop being so accessible, you give yourself permission to grow. You finally get the space to think, reflect, rest, and breathe. You start to reconnect with your own thoughts and feelings, hearing your inner voice again. You stop trying to fit into others' rhythms and start dancing to your own beat. That's when your life begins to feel different, not louder or busier, but more authentic, more yours. Most people fear silence because it exposes truth, but if you can sit with your silence long enough, you realize that the truth is simple. Not everyone deserves access to you, your time, or your energy. You're not cold because you step back. You're not rude for saying no. You're growing, learning, and strengthening yourself. That means you need to change how you move, how you speak, how you respond, and how others treat you. When you're always available, people tend to forget your value. But when you step back, your presence becomes more meaningful. The most respected people aren't necessarily always presently or intentional. They're rare because they aren't pulled in every direction. They aren't owned by their phones or inboxes or societal expectations. They are centered. And that's why others listen carefully when they speak. Their silence carries more weight than most words. Being hard to reach isn't about disappearing. It's about showing up on purpose. It's about being where your soul feels respected. It's about investing your energy into what truly matters and knowing the difference between being needed and being used. Most importantly, you must stop defining your worth by how often you show up for others. Instead, measure it by how deeply you show up for yourself. Human nature is wired to chase after what's elusive, via pull toward the less accessible. The more someone pulls away, the more others are drawn in. But you don't need to play that game. You just need to honor your energy. When people know they can't reach you at all hours, they start choosing their words more carefully, respecting your space and seeing you as a person on with limits, a human with boundaries. And that's where transformation begins. You don't need to shout to get heard, post to prove your worth, or explain every move to be understood. Your peace is your power. Your silence is your strength. Maintaining distance is your protection. You don't owe everyone access, nor do you need to answer every question. Some parts of you are sacred: your energy, your peace, your time. And when you start to make yourself less accessible, the world begins to treat you differently. That's when your healing truly begins. If this message resonates with you, if you've been feeling tired, used, drained, or forgotten, hear this. It's okay to disappear into the noise for a bit in order to reconnect with your true power. It's okay to step away from the crowd to find your peace. It's okay to be hard to reach so that you become impossible to replace. Drop the affirmation in the comments. I will protect my energy at all costs, like this message. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. Comment your truth. And above all, don't skip any part. The next words will shift how you love, how you think, and how you safeguard your spirit from now on. The illusion of constant connection is everywhere. We live in a world where messages fly back and forth in seconds, photos are shared instantly, and voice notes carry feelings over vast distances. But even with all this speed, many feel lonelier than ever before. This isn't accidental. It's a consequence of confusing noise with genuine care, attention with true love. Being always connected doesn't mean you're truly seen or valued. In fact, it often has the opposite effect. People forget what presence really means. When someone always responds, always shows up, they start treating that perfect availability as background noise, as something they don't need to earn, something that can be interrupted or left behind whenever it's convenient. That's not connection, that's consumption. Kong once said, loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important. Think about that. You might be texting all day with hundreds of people watching your stories, but still feel invisible. You might be in a crowded group chat, yet scream into silence. That's the danger of constant connection. It fools you into thinking you're not alone. But in reality, no one is truly listening or present for who you are. People come to you when they're bored or upset, but often without care. They don't check on how you're doing. They assume you're strong, always available, ready to give without question. That's the comfort you become in their storms, but when the sky's clear, they forget you were even there. They forget the quiet nights, the tired mornings, your effort to stay present. And here's the part no one talks about, the loneliness of being always reachable. Over time, every reply, every act of listening becomes a demand. The more available you are, the less your time feels special. You start feeling like a machine answering, explaining, reacting, trying to keep up with everyone's chaos while your own spirit feels drained. Because all this connection isn't nourishing your soul, it's depleting it. You begin to believe that your worth is tied to your reaction speed, how fast you check your messages, how often you respond. But that's not love. That's pressure, survival mode. It leaves no room for peace. People notice when you're always around. They stop seeing your value and start taking you for granted. Instead of marveling at who you are, they assume they already have you, and your worth diminishes into background noise. Over time, they stop asking how you feel because they believe you're always available. You become less a person and more a tool they can use whenever they please. And that's when your spirit begins to die slowly, when your energy feels heavy, and your mind becomes loud with the exhaustion of giving too much to those who never truly give back. That's the true illusion of constant connection. It looks full, but it's empty. It looks busy, but it's lonely. You're not meant to be available all the time. That's not strength. It's slow self-destruction. It binds your value to how you're used, not how you honor yourself. Your presence is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your attention is sacred. They should only be given where they are truly respected, not where they're expected. When you're harder to reach, you aren't distant, you are powerful. You create space. You give yourself the chance to think, reflect, rest, and hear your own thoughts again. That's when your life starts to shift, not louder, not busier, but more genuine and yours. Most people fear silence because it exposes the truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Protecting your silence isn't about being cold. It's about being wise. It's about understanding that your value doesn't depend on how many people see you or how often you speak. It's about knowing that real peace comes when you're respected, understood, and valued for who you are, not just for what you do. When you start stepping back from constant connectivity, you'll feel the peace and clarity return. You'll notice who reaches out when you're silent, who listens when you speak gently, who stays when you stop giving so much. In that stillness, you'll find strength, peace in your absence, and power in your choice to withdraw. And that's when genuine connection begins, not through endless talking or updates, but through mutual respect, shared silence, and intentional presence. You don't need to explain your need for space or apologize for turning off your phone. You are not a signal. You are a human. You have a right to disconnect, to heal. If you've ever felt exhausted from always being reachable, know this. You are not weak. You are waking up to the truth. The truth is, not everyone should have access to your energy. You don't owe everyone your time or attention. Stop giving what costs your peace. Say it loud. I will protect my peace. I honor my silence. I return to myself. Drop that in the comments. Like the message. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And don't skip any part, because what's coming next will change how you love, how you protect, and how you prioritize yourself moving forward. The first truth: we believe that constant connection equals closeness. But the truth is, it often empties us of meaning. The more we're always on, always replying, always available, the more we forget what genuine presence feels like. Yet, paradoxically, lonely people are more connected than ever. That's no accident. It's the price we pay for confusing noise with care. When someone is always present, always answering, they begin to treat that presence as background noise, as something to interrupt, something to use for their convenience. That's not a bond, that's consumption. It cheapens everything. Carl Jung said, loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important. Think about that. You can be texting and scrolling all day, yet still be invisible even when thousands are watching your stories. You can be in a crowded group chat and still feel like your voice is echoing into silence. That's because the illusion of connection is a trick. It pretends you're not alone, but in reality, your true self isn't seen or heard. People come to you when they're bored or upset, but rarely with real care. They assume you're unstoppable, always meant to give, never needing anything in return. That's the comfort you offer in their storms, but when the clouds part, they forget you were ever there. Your silence, your late nights, your exhaustion, you become invisible in their eyes. That's the loneliness no one talks about, being the person who's always reachable, always listening, always giving. Over time, every reply, every act of kindness starts to feel like a demand. The more available you are, the less special your time feels, and inside, you feel empty because none of it feeds your soul. It just drains it. You might start believing your worth is tied to how fast you respond or how often you check in. That's not love. That's pressure survival mode. It leaves no space for peace or real connection. People see you and stop appreciating your presence at the expected. And when you're always there, you become background noise. They stop asking how you're really doing because they think they already have you. And slowly, your boundaries fade, your spirit dulls, and your joy diminishes. Because when people constantly rely on you, they forget your value. Instead of seeing you as a human with limits, they see you as an appliance, as something to use on demand. That's when your energy starts to vanish. Your heart feels heavy, your mind becomes restless, and you realize, this isn't connection, this is exhaustion. You stop feeling cherished. Instead, you feel like you're just there to serve. That's the danger of overexposure. It might look busy, but it's incredibly lonely. You're not meant to be available all the time. That's not strength. That's a slow form of self-neglect. Your worth isn't in how much you give, but in how you protect your energy. Your presence is sacred. Your energy is sacred. Your attention is sacred, and it should only go where it's truly welcomed and respected. When you're harder to reach, you're actually more powerful. You create space for yourself. You give yourself permission to breathe, to think, to be still. That's when your life starts to feel real, not loud or chaotic, but authentic. Most people fear silence because it reveals the truth. Not everyone deserves access to you. Protecting your silence isn't about being cold. It's about being wise. It's about understanding that your value isn't measured by how many people see you or how often you speak. The real peace comes when you're respected for who you are, not just for what you do. When you step back, you'll find your clarity and notice who reaches out when you're quiet, who listens when you speak softly, who stays when you stop overcommitting. In that silence, you'll realize your own strength. You'll see who truly cares, who respects your boundaries, and who's willing to meet you where you are. Your silence becomes a shield protecting your spirit, your energy, your peace. Because when you're always available, people forget your value. When you draw back, they finally begin to see. That moment of absence is when respect starts to resurface. It's born in the realization that your time and presence aren't infinite. They must be earned. Every time you ignore a call you didn't want to answer, every time you show up exhausted but still there, you're teaching people that your boundaries don't matter. And that's Akyat first. But if you keep playing that role, people will believe you don't need respect. They'll think they already have you. The more you give, the less they ask for your feelings. Your well-being, they take it all as a given. That is how your worth quietly diminishes. So, the moment you draw the line, step away, and say no without guilt, that's when everything begins to shift. Some people will feel uneasy, some will disappear, but the ones who stay, who respect your limits, those are the ones you want in your life. Because they recognize your value isn't just about being there, they see your worth when you're absent. And every time you make that choice to be less available, you're teaching respect. Not with words, but through action. I am not a default option. I am not here to be used. My energy is precious. Say the affirmation in the comments. My time is rare. My respect is earned. This is how you reclaim your power. Because when you start protecting your boundaries, respect follows. When you stop giving access to everyone, people learn who truly deserves your energy and who's just taking advantage. Let your absence be a gift because ultimately, it reveals your true worth better than any words ever could. It's in the silence that they see how much you matter, not just in your presence. People don't realize that overexposure blinds them to your true value. But distance opens their eyes. It shows who's genuinely loyal, who's just here for convenience, and who's worth your limited attention. Your silence will distinguish the real from the fake, the loyal from the superficial. It will reveal who was truly walking with you and who was just walking near you. And in that process, you'll realize you're not less kind or less loving because you set boundaries. You're stronger, wiser, and more whole. Some people will miss you, they'll understand your silence. Others won't, they'll drift away. That's part of the process. Because the true gift is that you stop waiting for validation outside yourself. You give yourself value first. When people truly miss you, they'll do so because they respect who you are, not just what you do. That kind of genuine connection is rare, like a gem. And remember, you're not a shadow, you are the sun. When you walk away, the cold is noticed. When you're gone, the world shifts. That's the power your spirit holds. Protect it, trust it. Let your silence and distance teach people what they need to know. Your worth isn't for sale. And those who truly care will understand that, no matter how much you step back. They'll respect your boundaries because they see your soul, not just your service. So drop the affirmation. In silence, I rise. In distance, I am respected. Like the video. Share your thoughts. And keep living your truth, because the real strength lies in knowing when to speak and when to simply be.